So, hi everyone. Hope you're looking forward to today's chanting and meditations and Dharma Talk. Hope you've been practicing well and you're 7 days closer to enlightenment than you were before. So, let's do the chanting now. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme. Om Mani Padme. Tayata Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhisu. Tayata Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhisu. Tayata Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhi. Soha. So nice and comfortable now, not rigid, but also not slouching. Comfortable position for yourself. And bring the mind inside the body. Starting from the bottom of the body and working your way up to your shoulders, then down to your fingers, then back to the top of your head, to release the tension in the body. So release from all of your legs and your midsection, your upper torso, all around your head, to the top of your head. And then when you're ready, just scan your body once more to see if there's any more tension you can release. Now bring your focus to the tip of your nose and follow the breath as you breathe it all the way into your lungs. Breathing in, breathing out. Just focusing on the breath. If thoughts arise or mental activity arises, don't cling to it or grasp at it. Or try not to try to force it away either, or deny it, but simply and gently replace your mind back onto your breath. So let them go just naturally by replacing your mind on your breath. And if your mind starts to become sleepy or dull, then wake it up a little bit by replacing your mind onto your breath more brightly. Also, you may want to add the extra technique of counting the breaths from 1 to 10. Up to you. So let's practice like this in silence for a little bit. So now you can feel very pleased with yourself and fill yourself with universal loving kindness. Fill your whole being with this universal loving kindness. This universal, immeasurable loving kindness, infinite loving kindness that is generated in your own mind. Now it overflows and radiates outwards to others, initially your loved ones, your family and friends, filling them with the universal loving kindness as well. Gradually radiate further and further. Now also include those you may regard as strangers. And even those that you may regard as enemies. May all of these people have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be peaceful. Now let's radiate the loving kindness further and further distance-wise, initially around your immediate area, to all of the living beings, whether we actually know about them or not, whether they're seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, whether they're big and strong, or small and weak, whether they fly through the air or live on the land or even under the earth, in the waters. Now spread the loving kindness further throughout your whole state or county. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. Other countries throughout the world. You can start by radiating to those countries that you have an affinity towards. Then those that you are indifferent towards, and even to those that you may have some negative feelings towards. Until your loving kindness pervades throughout all of the countries throughout the whole world, as well as throughout permeating all of the oceans, right down to the center of the earth and out to the outermost atmosphere. Radiating this universal loving kindness to innumerable beings, to all sentient beings, also beyond this planet, throughout the whole solar system, throughout the galaxy, the universe, until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. Also be present here and now, and we will recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious body, Chitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So, we are having commentary on the 8 verses of thought transformation. Today we are doing the introduction still, so introduction part 3. And then I had a look at had a look at it for the coming weeks as well. And I think there'll be 3 parts to the overview. So looking at each verse, kind of abstractly, kind of, like an overview without getting into too many details. And then we can start dissecting each verse with each phrase, each word, each letter, maybe. Okay, so last week we started to, and the week before, towards the end of the class, I started to mention the history of this text, or texts like this, the thought transformation teachings that go all the way back to the Buddha. And then, of course, we have different texts that were written at different times. This one was written in the 12th century, approximately, so quite old text, but Geshe Langri Tangpa is the author. Just to remind you, Geshe is, it means basically somebody who has a doctorate in Buddhist philosophy and psychology. And normally it's about 20 years living and studying in a monastery before you would get be called a Geshe. Okay, though maybe it depends on the student, how quickly they got it, things like that. And so Geshe Lama, so like Lama meaning high quality, Ma is quality, La means high. So this is a person with high mental qualities. And Geshe, like I said, doctor, and doctor of Buddhism. And then other words too, you have Tuku, which means like a reincarnated Lama or teacher. And also you can use the word Rinpoche. Rinpoche literally means precious. So for instance, in the prayers that we do that's translated to English from the Tibetan, a dedication prayer, the second verse and the third verse as well, but I'll just do the second verse, or the last verse actually. Tongne tapa rinpoche, makia panamge chuchi, kiepa nyamba mepa dangon negondo pelwar sho. So Tongne tawa rinpoche means, may the precious view of emptiness, of shunyata. So you can use that word rinpoche as it being precious, it's something that's very valuable, but also it's a title as well, given to teachers, of sort of certain in-depth understanding, maybe reincarnated as teachers for many lifetimes. I just thought I'd give you that, remind you. I think most of you know anyway. So the 8 verses of thought transformation, let me just have a look at my notes for the history. I'll just reiterate what I sort of finished up with last week. Geshe Langri Tangpa believed these teachings were very profound and beyond the thought of ordinary people. Therefore, if he didn't write it down in verse form like he had, then maybe he was thinking that it could be lost. Maybe people wouldn't remember him as they should be remembered accurately, and that they, like the old saying of Chinese whispers or something, so they would change as one person hands it on to the next person, it may change. It's okay to change words, by the way, and different ways of expressing things, but as long as the core is there and remains pure and intact, can't change that, the meaning. So he felt it would be a great loss if they were not preserved. So he recorded them in the form of the 8 verses. Now, years later, after he passed away, Geshe Chakawa found another very well-known Geshe or Lama, found a written version of this. By the way, Geshe Chekawa, Chekawa, if you're interested in looking up his biography. Geshe Chekawa was extraordinary in his grasp of the teachings, his practice and listening, contemplating, and wanted to meet the author. But because Geshe's, hang on, sorry, I'm getting all confused with all the Tibetan words. It's been so many years since I've even spoken some of these names. Geshe Langri Tampa, because he'd already passed away, when he went looking for him, obviously he couldn't find him, right? I don't think I need to read that. But anyway, he met Geshe Sharawa instead, who gave him the entire teachings on thought transformation. So not only the 8 verses, but also other teachings, in-depth teachings that he handed down to him. Geshe Chekawa wrote the 7-point mind training as commentary on the 8 verses. So we'd know that that's not the 7-point training in bodhicitta, the cause and effect one, that's the longer version. Okay, so a longer 7-point mind training. So Geshe Chekawa is the author of that, and that's very well known. Okay, so you can have a look at that too. It's not too long, right? So it wouldn't take you too long to read it at least once. So then he began to teach thought training widely and openly. It became very popular in different levels of understanding that people had. So I'll go back. First of all, this was only taught to the higher students that could really understand it. But eventually the teachers, they wanted people to benefit more and more and more. So they realized that some people, even if they only just have some sort of faith in the teaching, some sort of devotion to the teaching, without having in-depth understanding, then they thought this can still benefit them. And so they started teaching out in public, like he'd actually go to markets and things like that and give Dharma talks and teach this 8 verses of thought transformation, as well as his 7-point mind training text and others as well. So you can see from the beginning, as I mentioned, only taught to the higher students, but then eventually to more public. And of course, it's alive here and now today. I think we're very, very lucky. I just share with you, Leanne or anybody, let me know when it goes under 1 minute. I've got this thing on my screen that's going to cover where the 10-minute thing countdown comes. Set up professional audio in audio settings, and I don't want to mess with anything. So in case I get cut off or something. And so I know now, I think we've got another 14 or 15 minutes to go. So we still have a fair bit of time. But when it starts to get down lower, I'll be able to sort of have a look down here in the corner on the computer. But I don't really want to have to do this all the time. Right? So let me know, go like that or something. Express yourself. All right, so I will chant these now, and then we'll start to have a look at them from kind of like an overview, but still introduction, we'll call it. With the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, I will constantly practice holding them dear, who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. I will constantly practice holding them dear. When I am with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all, and from the very depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. In all actions, I will examine my mind, and the moment a disturbing attitude arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly confront and avert it. Whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear, as if I have found a precious treasure. When others out of jealousy mistreat me with slander, abuse, and so on, I will practice accepting the defeat and offering the victory to them. When someone I've benefited in whom I place great trust hurts me very badly, I will practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. In short, I will offer directly and indirectly every benefit and happiness to all beings, my mothers, and in secret I will take upon myself all their harmful actions and sufferings. Without these practices being defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from the bondage of the disturbing unsubdued mind and karma. Okay, so I mentioned to you that I have another version. So what I'll do now is I'll read very slowly to you the version I just chanted, the one I'm familiar with. And so for many years.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. No problem. Nice to see you. But yeah, we need to, because Yeah, there you go. I think I'm back on again now. Because what happens is it cuts off who's talking. So that's the reason we mute everyone. That's nice to see you in your car there. Okay, so with the wish to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I will constantly practice holding them dear. And this is another way to express it. With the determination of accomplishing the highest welfare for all sentient beings who excel even the wish-granting gem, may I at all times hold them dear. And then the second verse, the one that we are going to work off, says, when I am with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all, and from the very depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. And this other one that I accessed says, whenever I associate with someone, may I think myself the lowest among all and hold the other supreme in the depth of my heart. Then the third verse, in all actions, I will examine my mind, and the moment a disturbing attitude arises endangering myself and others, I will firmly confront and avert it. And the other version, by the way, this is the one that Dalai Lama uses. Okay, so in all actions, may I search into my mind, and as soon as the klesha arises, that's the mental afflictions, endangering myself and others, may I firmly face and avert it. Verse 4, whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear. Or when I see beings of wicked nature pressed by violent sin and affliction, may I hold these rare ones dear as if I have found a precious treasure. Verse 5, when others out of jealousy mistreat me with slander, abuse, and so on, I will practice accepting the defeat and offering the victory to them. The other version, when others out of envy treat me badly with abuse, slander, and the like, may I suffer the defeat and offer the victory to others. When someone I have benefited in whom I place great trust hurts me very badly, I will practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. The other version says, when the one whom I have benefited with great hope hurts me very badly, may I behold him as my supreme guru. Then we have in short, I will offer directly and indirectly every benefit and happiness to all beings, my mothers, and in secret I will take upon myself all of their harmful actions and sufferings. And the other version, in short, may I directly and indirectly offer benefit and happiness to all my mothers. May I secretly take upon myself the harm and suffering of my mothers. Then the last one, without these practices being defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from the bondage of the disturbing, unsubdued mind and karma. And the last one, the other version says, may all this remain undefiled by the stains of keeping in view the 8 worldly principles. May I, by perceiving all dharmas as elusive, unattached, be delivered from the bondage of samsara. So that last one is slightly different, and we work off it as we get into the commentary on this scripture. Okay, so that'll do for the minute. And so I hope that was a bit repetitive, I know, but sometimes we have to repeat things, don't we? Create a familiarity so that we can absorb our mind with these things, okay? So that would be, I think now maybe 7 minutes to go. So maybe what I'll do is I'll speak about the spirit of these 8 verses of thought transformation. As mentioned, we are transforming the mind away from being non-virtuous and being virtuous. Having a mind that is free from harmful intentions, free from ill will, free from wrong views. Instead, replacing that, having a generous and open, giving mind, as well as having good intentions and pure intentions, as well as having the right view of reality, of how things really are. And so that's explaining to you what virtuous is. When we are virtuous, we're not doing anything wrong. If we are non-virtuous, we are going to do things wrong. As we do, even in small things, then we start to habituate the mind with this wrongdoing. Eventually, it starts to become natural, reinforced, and so I think that it really, you can see the benefit of changing the mind, transforming the mind to being virtuous. And we, like mentioning the third verse then, that whenever our mind goes into being non-virtuous, that we're going to check it. You're going to really confront it and then avert these negativities, get rid of them from the mind, or eradicate them. So you have to really be alert in the practice. You have to be mindful and aware in all of our Dharma practice. And in fact, if we are really serious practitioners, this is always. Yes, you may engage in other activities as well. You may engage in all sorts of activities, such as your work or your studies or hobbies or sports and the like. But you take this, you could call it Dharma attitude with you. So the more you absorb your mind with the Dharma, with these virtuous qualities, the more you will take them everywhere with you. Okay, so in one way, of course, to help you to do that is to try to memorize this. So try to memorize these teachings, even if we don't get it fully yet. So these 8 verses are just that. They're verses. They're shortened teachings on the longer, they're more like compressed teachings of the longer teachings. Okay, so, and I think in verse form is really good to memorize. Remember that the Buddha himself actually, when he spoke very profound teachings, different parts of very long scriptures, he would then summarize it in verse form so that the students, especially the advanced students, could actually memorize it and then have it with them everywhere they go and at all times. Okay, so try your best to keep your mind upright as you engage in first of all, hearing these teachings, and then, of course, reading. Sometimes if you're reading books, reading commentaries on these teachings, as then contemplating it. Don't just believe it blindly. It's really important that you don't just believe what I'm saying blindly, believe what the Buddha is saying even blindly, that you actually thoroughly test it and contemplate. Use your wonderful abilities to investigate these teachings and then analyze them thoroughly. Then you can believe. And then you absorb your mind with them. Then you really habituate your mind with the good understanding. And what I just mentioned to you there, again, is known as the 3 wisdoms, or the 3 wisdom tools. The wisdom of hearing, the wisdom of contemplation, and the wisdom of meditation or absorption. All right, so important to keep the mind upright. The more you do this, the more you will have a good awareness, the more you will be alert to when you get negative, some negative mind states pop up, you'll recognize them straight away. Once again, I quote myself, a little quote that I came up with years ago. Be careful, for even the smallest negative thought can turn into very large and overwhelming negative thoughts. Okay, so even if you have a very small negative thought that arises in your mind, really, check your mind and then let it go. And be happy with yourself. That's another thing that's really important. We have all of these faults that we need to purify from the mind. But as you do this, as you recognize them, and then as you purify them, then you can be very happy with yourself. Or rejoice. Yes, exactly. Rejoice in the rejoicing. And then dedicate all of this goodness to all living beings, even though we don't know all living beings. And actually, the more, when we do dedications, transferring merits, it's a wonderful way of practicing. The more you do this without attaching to or expecting a good result, the more it increases, multiplies the goodness. And then you can rejoice even more. And the more you do this with really no attachment at all, the more it becomes immeasurable. So the merit actually becomes immeasurable. And then, of course, merit is actually another way of expressing the word merit is to say methods, the Dharma methods. Or you could even just use the word compassion, or as from what we've been learning over the last year or so, especially, and many years prior to that, in the face-to-face classes, the bodhicitta, to realize the bodhicitta, the altruistic intention to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings, and then marry this, unite this, and perfect this with the supreme wisdom, the prajna paramita, or the perfection of wisdom. Okay, so I think we're pretty close. I'll just keep talking, and maybe you can tell me how long I've got. Is it 1 minute, under 1 minute yet? Like I said, something's blocking my clock on the screen, so I don't know.
2 minutes.
Okay, I think my mum just yelled out 2 minutes. So she's out in the lounge. She must have been like that. All right, so please practice really well. Please be patient as I go through the introduction of these things. I'm trying to stick to the traditional way of doing it, even though, of course, we're not the old traditional way using a computer, are we? But I'm trying to do it that way. Like I've said before, and on numerous occasions, we're kind of bringing the ancient teachings into the present right now for us, for ourselves. And so sometimes we do things slowly, but as we gather momentum, little bit like the loving kindness meditations that we do, we gather more and more momentum, and then we will go through these teachings a little bit quicker with lots. So I think my mic has gone off again. Okay, so it's good to see a little bit of happiness there. So be careful, take good care of yourselves, and I think, are we still continuing? Is the clock on? Is the clock on the thing? How long have I got?
Less than 1 minute.
Oh, thank you. All right. So yeah, just look after yourselves. Okay, look after your mind always. It's with our mind we have our experiences, and then of course we utilize our body and our speech and everything to enjoy life and whatever, but actually it's the mind that experiences everything. So the more that we're able to maintain this virtuous mind, the more good experience that you will have, and also the more you will learn from your experiences as well. Okie dokie. So Namo Buddhaya. Namo